Right after Juno, my agent asked me, "What do you want to do next?" And my answer was, I had two dreams when I was a kid. One was to direct movies. The other was to be a writer for Saturday Night Live. And he called Lorne, and they let me do a 1-week writing gig in 2008. And it was one of the greatest weeks of my life. Well, for the first time in my life, I had to try to do your job. And it was really intimidating. I became a journalist. And my writing partner, Gil Kennan, and I tried to interview everyone we could find that was alive in the building that night. Every living actor, every living writer, Lorne himself, NBC pages, members of Billy Preston's band, anyone who could give us insight to what it felt like on October 11th, 1975. When I would tell people, we're going to do a movie about the opening night of Saturday Night Live, they would go, "That's really cool. That's impossible to cast." And it was the most intimidating part of the process.
No, the honest answer is I never thought that I would ever play Dan Aykroyd in anything ever. Honestly. I'll tell the truth. I didn't even audition for the movie at first because I sort of self-diagnosed myself as not being right for it. And did
Even
you
on
even know
set?
this?
No.
Copy. Sorry.
Even on set,
Telling
you
you
were like,
now.
No, but you did come in late to the process.
Yeah.
And I did have that feeling because Aykroyd was the hardest role to cast. And when you finally came in, it was like, where the hell has this guy been? He's fantastic.
Yeah.
He didn't think he was right.
Never think that again.
Yeah, no, it was like kind of a leap of faith and trust in what Jason saw eventually. I mean, like I kind of just had to go with it and trust that I was just doing what I was doing was working.
But the way that you do his voice, like the pitch and tone and the cadence is so uncanny. Like,
I mean, let's talk about your voice first of all. If you want to talk about voices in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
I love Gilda's
Gilda voice is
voice.
nuts.
Gilda's voice is so delicious. She has this amazing S lisp, and the minute you start doing it, like your face changes, and like and your cheeks come up. It's amazing. Like Gilda's voice was a feast for me. I would do it again in a heartbeat. And you guys liked to tease me about.
Well, I would love walking by your dressing room and hearing you warm up.
My second day
It is
shooting, we were in New York and we were doing a night shoot outside, and we had earwigs on
At Rockefeller Ice Rink.
Rockefeller Ice Rink, and I'm supposed to like walk in, and I'm hearing your scene with Matt Wood, who plays Belushi, over like there, and it was such a crazy thing because I would hear your voice before I enter the scene, and it was weirdly like. It was weird how much you sound like Gilda, because I was like, that's Gilda Radner, I'm Lorne Michaels. Okay, let's go in. And it was like, it was profound. It was really amazing.
This was a trippy shoot in that way. Like, I had experiences like that with everyone. There was a morning where we recreated the first interview of the Not Ready for Primetime Players. And it was like waking up in a nightmare where we were all dressed in exactly the clothes.
That was my favorite day on set. That was
To me,
actually
that was a nightmare.
That was my favorite day. Jason did a little bait and switch to us where we were going to recreate the green screens, which is how the film is started. You're sort of introduced to all of us. But what he did is he
That
was
was
like,
one of my favorite days, too.
yeah,
Oh,
he's like,
oh.
everyone's going to do two
That was amazing.
takes
I was
of
very
this
happy.
screen test, but in between you need to stay in character, and everyone else in character who's sitting in a half circle watching everybody perform their auditions or their screen test can ask any question they want to in character to that person. They stay in character, and they have to respond.
Rachel, as Rosie goes, "Hey, Chevy, you're really handsome. Why are you so funny?" And that immediately became the opening line of the movie.
Whoa. I spent for about 2 months. I didn't watch anything except Chevy Chase obsessively.
It's exactly how Chevy would want it.
Yes, and this was after Jason sent an email to all of us saying, "Don't over prepare."
Yeah.
And
Send this email to all of us, very specifically.
Yeah.
You don't need to prep. Just
I-
come and trust me.
Yeah.
The movie that I'd seen this interview where Chevy
Not
said,
trust me. You already know how to do it.
that's what he said. Yeah.
And then I think you said, jump.
There was an interview where Chevy said that he felt that Fletch was the character that was closest to him. So I had Fletch playing on my computer kind of constantly. I'm making food, Fletch is on. I'm getting ready for bed, Fletch is on. And I just created this glossary index of all of his little bits and ticks and physical things so that I had like a whole graph and I could just like figure out where I wanted to place little things.
Thanks for following the instructions, Corey. Over prepared.
My bad.
I drew a
Lamorne,
chart.
what did you
And a little
do?
math.
The way that you get his physicality, like how did you do it?
Well, Garrett is one of those people. He's such an OG that as a comedian and as a person who, as like a black comedian, you grow up idolizing certain people. Garrett, Eddie Murphy took a little bit from him, and then so on and so forth. And you realize when you're mimicking movements of a person, it stems from somewhere. And Garrett is the stem for a lot of the comedians that we see today. And so it was kind of, his physicality was something that you know, a lot of folks, when you're imitating like old black dudes, like they kind of walk a certain way, especially in the 70s. There was this kind of, this little hitch they would have, you know, when they would walk. So the movement was kind of a natural thing. His voice was just a lot of just watching old Martin and, you know, SNL and trying to just get that thing down. Then I spoke to him. I thought, you know, have a conversation with him. We had a few conversations, but he's 88 now, 89. So his voice is a little different. So what I was trying to do was gather Garrett's voice, not from when he's performing, because this show is not necessarily in performance. It's in our preparation. So I'm trying to figure out, I couldn't really find too many interviews when Garrett was younger on how he actually sounded. You know what I mean? So there's a difference between how he's performing when he's on SNL, because he's very broad and he's got this whole thing going. So when, I was trying to find that balance between
To me, that was like
play
a part
and-
of the fun with the movie was that, yes, we have all of this footage of them, but there's so much creative license that has to happen when you're filling in the blanks. And like so much of this footage is them in performance mode, but looking at the behind the scenes mechanism of how these sketches came together was a really freeing thing for me. I felt like I'd been given like my song sheet and my score, but that then the way that it was going to be delivered was like completely down to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was the interview, and then there was the Tom Snyder interview, and then there was like a bit of the Beatles, and then he had a bit with George Harrison and Paul Simon, and he made appearances in the first 5 years more often than he does now, but no, they're not so much. But honestly, it was enough, but most of my prep were in books. There were like a handful, maybe 4 books on the backstage histories of SNL and how he and Dick Ebersol met, but same thing. Jason was
Gabe
like,
was quoting those books.
Oh my God. Gabe did so much research.
Jason
Gabe
was-
Gabe coming to me like, but I noticed in chapter 3 of this book that he's done this. It's okay, Gabe. It's good. Just please do the scene.
Jason was like, I don't want you doing any research. I don't want you talking to Laura. And I'm
Cut
like-
to 6 months
and I'm
later.
Like, yeah, totally. And then I'm like, so when can I talk to Laura? And he goes, you're not. I'm like, yeah, totally. But so like, but I was cast in June of 23, and then 2 strikes happened, and it was the only thing on my mind. It was the only thing that really got me through that lull. So I was kind of thinking about this for like a whole year, and I couldn't help but over prepare. And then a week into it, you were like drop this. You're doing.
It's wild to think that you had that much time to think about it between cast and shoot, and yet between when we finished the movie and now is a matter of like a few months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Into your mic, please, Jason.
Oh, sorry. These are real mics. I genuinely thought they were fake. I really,
so lightweight.
I thought, I get it. You need to show deadline. That's your mic. Got it. I'm a director, guys. There's something crazy about the fact that there was a year between when you got cast and when we shot, and that between when we actually wrapped and now feels like days. It was just like a few months ago.
Oh my God, yeah. It's very strange for me.
Okay, so for Rosie, there's not like a ton of footage of her or barely any. And so I talked to Rosie on the phone, and she is just so funny, so smart, and just like cool. And when I say cool, I mean like she's fucking cool. And in that, like, she's on the phone, like, laughing, telling me, like, oh, no, we had no idea what was going on. No, it's totally fine. I'm like, what? And it's so funny because That is not my vibe. I'm uptight, type A, freak out, panic. If I was there at SNL, I would be like, guys, like I would be freaking the fuck out. And so everything for me came from this place of I was like, who, and you said this to me too, which is like nothing throws her. It's like anything. It's like, okay, this thing is blowing up. What about this? How about that? And it was such a like joy to like get to play that because that's so not who I am. I want to
and
be
who
more
you've been
like
playing.
her.
Because
And
you've
who-
done a series of movies in a row now where
Panic attacks.
Yeah, where shit's happening to you and it's getting to you.
it's
And you're
getting-
right. And this is the first time I remember you developed a walk. This kind of
Yes.
like nothing affects me walk, and like it would make your hair
Yes.
bounce. Yeah.
I got these shoes. I painted my toes red. No one knows. You can't see my feet at all. But I was like, I gotta have red toes for this movie. Everyone else is like, I watch 100 movies. I'm like, I painted my toes red, and I didn't give a fuck. But it was really, really fun.
Lorne has not seen the movie yet. I have no idea if he'll ever tell me his reaction because he's a cryptic person. But obviously, he was the first person I ever reached out to. I've been speaking to him throughout this process. And Lorne is someone who has always looked forward. I think it's part of his genius. From the moment one, when he made this show, he would finish an episode and he would just put it behind him and he would think about what's next. I think it's the reason that someone at his age who's been doing this show for 50 years is constantly evolving. If you think about the fact that he had already created this show 3-4 times over before Lonely Island showed up, or Please Don't Destroy shows up, you know, he reinvents what is comedy every 5 to 10 years. And it's because he is never looking in the rearview mirror. So I think we'd all be honored. We will all be honored when he watches it. But that will be on Lorne's time.